25th of May 2025, Starmer Ouster. You're welcome back. It's rainy and wet here, but they're crying for rain. I'm after getting a bit of a ducking there by being up the fields with wet, but anyway, it's not a big problem. No, I normally predict stuff and generally pride myself on being able to tell you what's going to happen before it goes to happen. Now, you know that it's looking very like, and there's very good evidence to show that there is this type of some kind of deep state. How it's run or exactly how it's centered, we're not quite sure, but it has its goal to destroy our personal freedom, our ordinary freedom. It attacks anyone who speaks against it. They were able to get the banks to try to cancel Nigel Farage's account. They have cancelled elections in Europe. And they have the ultimate goal of getting over the Trump period and getting him out and going back to their normal ways. Their goal is a strong EU, ever expanding EU, and Russia is a big problem for them. And while Vladimir Putin is no angel, people have died in Britain even by who were enemies of his way of doing things, and there's no doubt about that. I believe that, but that doesn't justify a full-scale war on Russia. But I'm no big lover of Russia. But in the Ukraine, there are two sides to the story. So their object is to win in the Ukraine, to get Putin out, take over the resources of Russia and the Ukraine, and as I said, get Russia out, get Britain back into the EU and extend the EU to Ukraine and use any bit of wealth there is to rebuild the Ukraine and make millionaires out of a lot of people. The rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. So Keir Starmer was an agent for this. The British people voted for him 33%, but they had a poor choice. The Conservatives turned on the people, and there's a woman there now, Kemi Badenoch. You'll get her there, you'll see her, and she's in charge of the Tory party or the Conservative party, and there really isn't much sign of anything brewing there that would be any good to right the wrongs of Europe and the UK. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Keir Starmer handed the UK back almost all Brexit. They've nearly got it all, and if they get their way, eventually Brexit will be totally cancelled. The way it is now, Britain is subject to the EU rules, but they're not part of the decision-making process. But being part of the decision-making process is a bit of a lie, because the EU will force you to go with whatever they want. So, for example, if they wanted to bring in a law here in Ireland to take all farmers' assistance away and shut down farms, or turn a whole county into a lake, the Irish politician will be persuaded to vote for it. How they manage it, I don't know, but they will, and they'll vote for it totally. We saw here in Ireland, we had an election last year. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael did not get a majority, and yet they had a queue of people from independent who got elected as independents, who handed them full power without any conditions on migration or anything, or any reduction on net zero or the carbon tax. They just behaved as if they were Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael politicians, and why they did that is another story. I don't know, can anyone ask them that? They probably won't talk to you, and they have a vote in their own constituency, so it's just the Fianna Fáil fails to get a seat, somebody else gets it and does what Fianna Fáil and the EU want. It's more or less the same in Britain, but anyway, Keir Starmer is very, very much disliked. He's a sort of an ignorant bully, as it were, and he has a few skeletons in the cupboard, it would appear. But he's not liked at all. He's hated by the British people, and the UKIP are on the rise, Reform UK, and they're after doing well in an election. And it looks very much like the Labour Party in elections next May will be turned into a defeat, into third place for Labour in Scotland and Wales. And that would be a big problem. And there's no doubt, I think Farage, whatever you might say about him, he is definitely not one of them, and he must be a big thorn in their side. And what you're seeing here is the British people themselves. They don't want to be taken for fools like this, and they are. So there's a bit of a situation now with the victory of reform, in that Starmer has begun to row back on migration. He said that migrants will have to be able to speak English, which is a ridiculous thing. 500 came across one day last week. 500 came across the channel. Once the weather's good, they arrive back. And some of them will arrive in Ireland. So 500 came across the channel, and he's going to check to see can they speak English. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? They're all put up in hotels. What's he going to do with them? So he tried to row back, and funny enough, that split the party, because a good deal of what they call soft left Labour MPs are going to go over to the Lib Dems, which are a communist party, and to the Greens that only had one seat in the previous election. I think they've still only one, so they're going over to the Greens. So there's a huge cohort of people in the United Kingdom, particularly England, that are bleeding heart mammies who, the poor fella, sure, he ran out of Somalia, he wouldn't have went out of there if he wasn't persecuted. He's persecuted and his income is low, and there's not much future there because of the mismanagement of the place. And they claim Britain should take them, but they're not able to calculate that that will eventually destroy Britain. The other thing about the migration into Britain and Ireland is, once they get settled in, they're going to bring their 2 grandmothers. Some people have 4 grandmothers. Their father, their mother, their brothers, their sister. They're going to claim relationships with half of the world. So for every one that comes in here, at least 5 will come back, will be claimed and brought in here under some connection or common bond between them. So the migrant situation is about 4 times as bad as it appears on the outset. And there's no willingness to tackle it, and it takes courage to tackle it, and they don't have that courage, and it takes intelligence to tackle it. I mean, the sheer stupidity of a government in England that says it can fight Russia and it can't stop a few migrants coming in on the south coast is ridiculous. Anyway, there's stirrings in the Labour Party, and there's a lot of history there with the Conservatives. They got rid of 3 prime ministers, 3 leaders in the last few years: Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, Theresa May, and that. So they're used to getting rid of them, but the Labour Party has not been that, has no history of getting rid of its leader, particularly when it's in power. But I think this trend of the MPs realising how mad and ridiculous their choice of leader is will cause Starmer to be ousted, and that's why I have the name of this here, Starmer Ouster. I would say, and this is one of the things about my channel, there's no point in me telling you what happened in the past. I think he'll be got rid of. I think Starmer's on the way out. The deal he signed on the fish with the UK is designed so that it'll last beyond the term of anyone that comes in. I mean, why should a Prime Minister that only lasts 2 months, well, no, it's not right, 2 months, it lasts a year, be able to commit British fisheries for 12 years. Why should that be? Isn't that wrong? But anyway, this is the situation, and so I think you're going to see him ousted by the Labour Party, and the most likely successor is Wes Streeting, WESS, I think it is, STREETING. He's the MP for Ilford North, I think, in London. He prides himself on being a bit of a Tory Blairite, but I don't think it's going to matter. It was compared by one person I heard talking, and a very good point. It's like a relay race. In a relay race, you have a baton, a big piece of a stick, and the job is, we'll say, for 6 runners to make 5 miles in as fast as possible, but they can share it between themselves. So they line up the 6 runners at intervals, and the number 1 passes the baton to number 2, and he drops out, and then the next one drops out, and they go on and give the baton until they reach the finishing line. And the finishing line is for the politicians in the UK in all hue and cries, except for Reform UK, and except for maybe the Irish Freedom Party or parties that I associate with here. The object is to do all this to give away the country completely, destroy the country, and that's the object. And how they do it, it doesn't matter if they have a Prime Minister in and he's a bit unpopular. In other words, just pass it on to somebody else, but the overall trend is to destroy the country. And that's the same here with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And that shows about the independents that got elected here. In the end of the day, they were pro-woke, pro-destruction, pro-cultural Marxist, pro-mass migration, pro all the carbon taxes, pro-windmills, pro-renewable energy, pro-destroying cars. And that is not the view of the ordinary voter, because I know some of the voters, but it doesn't seem to matter. It's said that Kemi Bradnoch, once said in an interview, let it slip, we don't care what the people think, we're going to do it anyway. And that's exactly what it is. They don't care what you and I think. They're going to push on with this. The problem is they come up against Russia, and that's a difficult one for them to do, because you actually have to get boots on the ground, and that's not so easy. And the conflicts in the story, where they destroy industry and then want to make guns, like, I mean, how are guns made? Only in industry. I'm talking about big artillery pieces and the ammunition for them. So that's my prediction. The overall aim of the whole movement is to push ahead like a relay race, pass the baton on back and forward among the various ones, let them drop out, like Liz Truss drop out, like Boris Johnson drop out, like Rishi Sunak was defeated, and then Kemi Badenoch gets in. But it doesn't matter who gets the baton. The overall approach is to destroy the country. And that's, the EU is on top of that. Starmer must have been terribly sad with Brexit, but they're working to reverse it. And you have to admit, it's already half reversed, even though the will of the people was for Brexit, they have been denied. So you see the overall way of looking at it, and how I look at it. All we can do is push back against it. But an understanding of the system is very important, and I'm not alone in that. There are many eminent commentators see that we need to identify what this woke left cultural Marxist mass migration, destruction of industry commitment is. And there's no sign of it improving with the young people coming on. Employers tell me there's a severe problem with young people that won't do anything. If they're working in a shop, they will serve and they will work in the shop where the customers are coming in. But if they're in a private institution, or they're working for a place where they're expected to work on their own, they won't do it in a lot of if it's a difficult job. And that'll apply in the police and many other things, in the Gardaí and in Ireland and all of that. So the main point of this video, folks, is that you remember that the baton is being passed between politicians. And they keep, oh, great new Prime Minister, great new this and that. But overall, the direction they take is the same. Whether they're Conservative in England, who are traitors, whether they're Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael in Ireland, and whether they're Sinn Féin, people before profit, or anything else. If people before puberty or profit got into power in Ireland in the morning, they'd fill the country full of migrants. So what is that feature? What is that? I don't know. Comment underneath. We'll see you back soon. Thank you.